conflict. Can you hear our children crying? They're calling from all over this land. They're glaring at today's page. Is your Australia fair? Is your Australia fair? So come on! Come rise and shine the rising. Come help us all to cause. Come join your children singing. Let's advance Australia fair. It's time to advance Australia fair. Come rise and join the rising. Come help us all to cause. Come join your children singing. Let's advance Australia fair. It's time to advance Australia fair.
Good evening, everyone. It's Donna from Magic Moments, and tonight we have the lovely Kathy Scarborough. Now, Kathy is a lady who wears many, many hats, so I will tell you a few, but there's many more. So first of all, she has a Bachelor of Science, majoring in Pharmacology and Physiology. She's formed Vaccination Information, a non-profit organisation supporting parents with vaccination choices. She's a Freedom Rally organiser, and she's the author of Investigate Before You Vaccinate. So let's welcome Kathy to the stage. Hi,
Hey.
Kathy, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Donna.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming on. You've had a busy day.
Yeah, I've got a bit of running around going on at the moment in my life, but I made it.
Yeah, you did.
Got a bit of strobing in the background. I don't know what's causing that, but hopefully it won't bother too many people.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So tell us all how you got involved with all these many hats that you wear. It's unbelievable.
Oh, not really. Well, it's sort of one big hat, I suppose. Being the vaccine thing, and I do tell this story a lot, but so I'll keep it brief. But I'm a mum of 4 daughters. Interestingly, I had a dreadful birthing experience with the second at a Sydney hospital. And then in moving back to Adelaide, my hometown, my 2 subsequent daughters were home birthed. So I became very involved with the home birth network. And at that point, I'd stopped vaccinating because my eldest had gotten a vaccine strain measles from the measles vaccine, and I started investigating. So here I was home birthing, not vaccinating, and the home birth network were very keen to find out more about vaccines. So I spent nearly a full year researching a paper for the home birth network.
Right.
It was the year my youngest daughter was born, being 1993, and the year that I left my husband. Well, basically left my husband February the next year and became a sole parent. But so because I had done that, and I ended up back at uni to do my teaching, thinking that will get me through with income.
Right. Yeah.
And I had to put my youngest in childcare at Adelaide Uni childcare centre, just 2 afternoons a week. But it was when they asked about her vaccination status, and this is 1994 by this stage. I'm thinking, why are you asking? There's no requirement for you to ask. Pretty quickly, actually learnt they were canvassing all childcare centres to start following up on vaccination status.
Right.
I ended up, all of those things led to me being a contact for vaccine information. I reached out to find out more at that point because there was a Sydney organisation with Maureen Hickman, put me on to a local lady who just went, well, I'd rather you did this than me. And so I started being a contact back in roughly 1994, 95, under the Australian Council for Immunisation Information, which, you meet people who are on the same page. And one particular, Kelly White, well, she was Kelly White back then, but she's, I think she's in Victoria now. She was doing a PhD at Flinders University at the time to compare, development in vaccinated and unvaccinated children. And she got me along to this big hall meeting, like major meeting for all childcare centre directors, right? Massive. This is probably, it would be maybe early 1995 even. And it was being run by Dr. Robert Hall and his partner wife, Fiona Kemp. So one was the head of SA, like the health department, and Fiona, not Fiona, Anne Kemp. Fiona Kemp's a midwife that birthed my baby. Anne Kemp, we'll get that. She was head of the immunisation unit. So Kelly and I sat uninvited in this large auditorium and listened to the frank BS that was being sprouted about vaccines to childcare centre directors, with the encouragement that they look at the vaccination status of the children in their centre. So you can see they were planting the seeds way back then. And, I think I put up my hand and said, Dr. Hall, anyone got any questions or whatever? I understand, the polio vaccine was contaminated with a monkey virus leading to, cancers. I said, oh, yes, but it was only a handful of vials and only a handful, you know what I mean? So there began my public sparring. Yeah, so everything leads somewhere. 1997, they were making that vaccine push a reality with the 7-point plan to immunise Australia. And that's when a bunch of South Australians all came together, found me, came together, and we formed this Vaccination Information SA. So, when something like the COVID scam came along, I was asked to pick up a mic, and I was very happy to have, people engaging finally. SV40, yes, virus. I can see Karen Shorey said, SV40, countless simian viruses from propagating, if viruses exist, mind you, propagating polio vaccine in African green monkey tissue. So, yeah.
Isn't it, is it true that with the polio, by the time they brought the vaccine out, that it was basically over anyway?
Oh, that's a really big one to unpack, polio. So because where did polio come from? What suddenly caused this epidemic? They said in the US, and the subsequent March of the Dimes, which was, they were doing the lockdowns. You couldn't go to movie theatres or public swimming pools, and the fear mongering and the iron lungs and all the rest of it. And I think Vera Scheibner or others call it provocation polio. It actually was paralysis as a result of other vaccines and other factors. But two things. Yeah, viruses definitely don't exist. I completely agree. Don't worry, but it's hard to use the language.
Yeah.
The thing is, they used to label polio any form of paralysis right? But when they introduced the vaccine, they changed the parameters, and that paralysis had to last more than 60 days, or it would be called aseptic meningitis, right?
Yep.
So what you have is the same numbers of whatever this is. Yes, polio, DDT, chemical poisoning, also paralysis from in the limbs following injection. There's, as you're right, there's so much feeds into it. LEG knows his stuff. But so they just changed the labeling and the criteria. So the numbers didn't alter at all, but this major decrease in the incidence of polio, of course, was attributed to the vaccine. But, and they started with an injection to start with, and that caused paralysis. So it was quickly withdrawn and replaced with the oral polio. And decades later, that was obviously withdrawn, and they've gone back to the injection. So there's a lot of history around polio. It's not like there was a vaccine and we wiped out polio. Not true at all.
And that's the one I find that everybody goes back to. Oh, but the polio one worked. The polio, if we didn't have the polio one, that, that's the big thing that people talk about when we talk about vaccines.
Yeah, well, they talk about it, but like from the 50s right through to a couple of decades ago, we were giving oral polio vaccine, and it was the only cause of polio in Australia, what they call vaccine associated. This is government explanation, vaccine associated paralytic poliomyelitis. Gosh. So that was their reasoning for shifting back to an injectable vaccine. But at the same time, they said it could still be given in third world or developing countries. And these are places which are lacking the sanitation and the nutrition, and they have the overcrowding. So you can spread whatever it is from the feces of a baby given this vaccine. And that's exactly what's happened now in, everywhere that they still give the vaccine. And you notice in Gaza, for example, you're watching Gaza, and the first thing they do is, go in with vaccines. It's either measles or polio vaccine whenever there's a major humanitarian crisis. Not food, not water, So, yeah. Same with smallpox. There's a lot more to that history, but these are the two, cherry-picked vaccines that, wiped out polio. Well, no, they didn't. So, but, there's a lot of research to be done around those two.
Yeah.
To uncover and unpacking. And on the whole question now about viruses, it was, it's actually ludicrous. They used to call this granular material in cells cellular debris, right? And that's where they extracted what they called their viruses from. So how did they know what it was when it was just debris? Around 1984, they discovered that it was all kinds of different cells, exosomes, they call them. Like some were messengers, some were eliminators, etc. And that's when the pharmaceutical industry switched its focus to these exosomes to try and manipulate them, because they could see them communicating cell to cell to actually manipulate them, and that's the science behind the mRNA vaccines. So my point, like, I've got another interview I did on this, a bit of a presentation, but it will do your head in. They extract some of this, cell that they want to manipulate the same sort of pathway that our cells use to communicate and eliminate, to introduce artificial, human engineered messenger RNA to affect cell structure in the same way, to actually influence it as a messenger. So anyway, it's full on. It's full on. And if you look back at that, then you go, well, if they thought that was cell debris, so basically they're taking cell debris from somebody who's had a disease, passaging it through monkeys and taking their cell debris and passaging that through guinea pigs and taking that cell debris, and then rabbits and blah, blah, through several species, and then putting that debris product with everything else in it, like, which is DNA from other species, basically, via an injection, and claiming that they know what they're doing. If you look into the history of smallpox, and Edward Jenner, I mean, a demand was created for the smallpox vaccine. They were using orphans in orphanages to grow vaccine material, and that is a horrifying thought, because you have to be pretty ill to be pustulely like that. But then they found some of the vaccine material was giving people syphilis, so they had to quickly change to a cow or calf model for propagation. But they also very quickly said it bears no resemblance to what it started out as, and they called it Vaccinia. So they don't know what they're doing. They've never known what they're doing, would be my assertion there.
Well, it hasn't, they haven't all been tested together anyway, have they? They might have had their testing individually, but when they put it all together, they haven't had the testing to see how it's all going to act.
Yeah, they've never really been tested.
Any of them?
No, the gold standard double-blind placebo-controlled study. So they'll use another vaccine in the mix. So somebody gets one vaccine and somebody gets two vaccines with, one's got the new one. There is no flatline parameter, one gets it, one doesn't. That never exists in the way that they supposedly test. They can't tell what is doing what anymore. There's so many going in all at once. I was speaking to a friend the other night, he was saying, like, essentially this COVID vaccine was just a giant, they were testing as they rolled out the vaccine. Well, that's not the first time they've done that. They've done that before with new vaccines as they've introduced them. The meningococcal C vaccine was tested in the UK population when it was rolled out in, across schools. That was their testing ground.
That was their
and if you look at the pre-testing and then the results and then the manipulation of those results, it's pretty significant. I mean, we've got Africa being targeted for a malaria vaccine at the moment, which even under their terms showed something like a 20% efficacy. And it's mRNA technology, and they're going with it. We got mRNA vaccines rolled out here. I couldn't believe it. When that technology given in Indonesia for dengue fever killed 600 children.
Oh my
before they
Lord.
stopped it. And you go, what are you? So everybody knows, obviously not everybody knows, but many, many people are awake that this is not an agenda about health. It's not an agenda about preventing disease. No vaccine's ever prevented disease. They've kept things circulating in a different way. They've manipulated nature. But they certainly haven't prevented disease. And we still see, somebody's having a baby, every pregnancy, a whooping cough vaccine, every birth, everyone around, in the family is supposed to be having whooping cough vaccine, and they don't even pretend that it gives protection. They now claim it might prevent transmission, but with 85% of countries, with vaccination rates over 95%, I think there's one recent reference I read. There's more whooping cough than ever. It's changed in its nature. It's no longer cyclical. Really, they've got parents in a spin.
Yeah, they have, and it's another division too, isn't it? I know lots of people won't let grandparents or family members see their newborn babies unless they've had these vaccinations. So it's really, when I think about it, that division of family has been happening for a while, hasn't it? Through the manipulation of vaccines.
Yeah. I mean, 2015, was when I really clocked it, and I was someone not vaccinating, and I was doing media. I got media up until 2015. Every time there was a vaccine story, they did seek, another opinion.
Right.
So everybody knew my choices, and nobody, people. I gave a lecture, I think it was in 2009, and this guy's at the end saying, "Oh, you're so brave," and la la la. And I'm like, "No, it's joyful. People are grateful for information, and no, I don't. I don't get attacked. There was no attacking."
Mm-hmm.
But 2015, when they introduced no jab, no pay, they really ramped up the term anti-vaxxer, and they really ramped up that separation. And then, of course, it was South Australia. It was 2020, no jab, no play legislation was passed. They kicked kids out of kindy in August 2020. But Victoria already had that in place. So, yeah, it's absolutely divisive. And even with COVID, people who for the first time were questioning vaccines, bore the label of anti-vaxxer.
Yep.
It's a deliberate manipulation to separate people, as is all the propaganda around their safety or efficacy, which is in every aspect of the media, mainstream media, of course.
Yeah. It's gone past it now, but Robert was asking about the Hep B vaccination.
Yeah, there's another. Look, hepatitis B vaccine introduced in around 2000, mercury containing, to be given at birth.
Yes.
Okay, I can tell you that when that was launched, the medical journal article describing the introduction of hepatitis B vaccine referred to hepatitis B being a disease of intravenous drug users and promiscuous homosexuals, and saying that they were an extremely difficult cohort of people to get to, whereas babies in hospital were captive. That word was used, captive. Now, the thing about the Hep B was there were actually Brisbane midwives noticed after that was introduced that babies weren't establishing breastfeeding. And I'm going to move myself.
You're waking me up to more stuff as you speak.
Yeah. So these nurses discovered that, and so they started and they looked into it, and they saw that loss of appetite was a side effect of hepatitis B vaccine, and they saw that it was not a disease. Like, you could live with somebody, who's got hepatitis B and share a toothbrush, right, and not get hepatitis B. So, and really, to me, that's going, okay, up until doing this. Let's see if I can move. No, I want to go the other way. This is my bathroom. And up until doing this, if you think about the impact as parents, you might have been watching. You've given birth to a healthy baby. Sure, you might have had vitamin K, right? Which is not ideal either, obviously. But you've probably seen a baby develop fairly normally for 3 months at that point, when they were giving the first vaccines at 3 months, say, or might have gone forward to 2 by then. But if you've got that injection going in at birth, you're never going to see what a normal baby looks like. You're never going to know what your baby would be like. Do you know? Develop you won't know what that impact is on that child. You won't know when they struggle to feed, where they're, when something happens or they have some condition, you won't know what they were like beforehand.
No.
And there was a study that, and it was an American study, and it was looking at the impact of hepatitis B vaccine on neonates and deaths, neonatal deaths following hepatitis B vaccine. And it looked at about, from memory, a dozen or more. And one of them, the baby had been taken to the pediatrician for a well baby visit, right? Well baby visit, being given hepatitis B vaccine, and died in the car seat within 30 minutes. And the way research is conducted, they concluded that the vaccine hadn't contributed to infant deaths.
Of course.
And I don't know what, my brain just goes, well, it did that one. Clearly, how can you say no? But this is how they get away with it. Seizures are normal,
Oh, that happened to my daughter.
Oh, it's just a coincidence that happened after a vaccine. Seizures are normal.
Paramedic told me that it was from the vaccine.
Yeah.
He actually said it was. Yeah. That was her first ones out of hospital. But she was sick after having them in hospital. But she went through a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm quite proud to be an anti-vaxxer now, just saying.
Well, you're doing what you were asked to do, told to do, bullied into doing, really. And that can come with a lot of guilt for parents when things go wrong. So, but
because I didn't want to. And it was funny you just saying about how the baby died in the car, because when I took my girls to get them, I'd be a nervous wreck, and I'd be something inside of me I knew. I'd be watching the vision mirror all the way, and I'd go to mum's because I was terrified something was going to happen to them.
Yeah. It's a lot. And it's normalised, and sick children are normalised, and every child's got a chronic health condition. 30% have got more than one. There's just so much impacting, children, and the vaccines go in, then then comes the Panadol to suppress the temperature, and then the body's trying to, chuck out the toxins that have been injected with a rash or a, infection. And then come the antibiotics and the steroid creams, dreadful stuff.
Oh, it's just insane, isn't it? It's actually insane. It's just one after another, after another, after another.
And parents are doing this now. Like back then, parents were going, am I doing the right thing? Maybe that vaccine impacted. And then they'd go, well, I think maybe with the measles, mumps, rubella, I might split that 3 ways and have them separately, please, doctor. Sorry, you're not able to do that. We can't get that separated. Okay, well, perhaps today we won't have all of them, or perhaps we'll wait another 6 weeks before I give the next one. And so that was what they labelled parental hesitancy, which is obvious and natural when you've seen the impact on your kid. Yeah. And that's why they took that away with no jab, no pay. And it wasn't enough. So, they kick kids out as well. And we were talking the other day. So, you're non-vaccinating. You're not accessing childcare services.
Me?
No. If you're a parent that's not vaccinating, you are not able to access childcare services.
Yes.
Okay. Your child is not able to attend kindergarten. Anyone providing that service is liable to a $30,000 fine, and it's just blowing my mind every night on the news. There is another layer of evil,
Yeah.
in the childcare sector.
Yes.
You know, like evil incidences that, like, you know, pedophilia, sexual assault, dropping babies, picking them up and throwing them, gaffer taping them in like, it's a sector under, you know, it's under strain. It's motivated by money making, you know, and now we're seeing all the horrible consequences of that, you know, pretty well nightly on the news. And the parents who are now carrying that, you know, burden of guilt and wonder and alarm, have all had to line their children up on time, all vaccines, or they wouldn't even be in those services. It's pretty wrong. You can't, anytime, can someone tell me, have you ever known an institution that hasn't been vulnerable to these kind of neglect and abuse incidents? Just having my arm licked by Kimber, my new dog.
Mine's snoring. Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, and here in South Australia, Peter Malinauskas, our wonderful premier, you know, they're all, you know, all sides of politics wants every child to have access to kindergarten. That's all agreed, except if you're unvaccinated, then you can, you know, sod off, she says politely. But, you know, Malinauskas is, you know, hell-bent that preschool kindergarten will start for 3-year-olds now, not 4-year-olds.
Oh, I know, it's horrifying, isn't it?
In a system that is completely struggling to get qualified educators. If they do manage to get them, they can't keep them because they're so stretched in what they're doing. And I mean, Malinauskas, I pay attention to words when he's proudly, you know, talking about his latest innovation. He describes them as like being groomed for the workforce at 3. So, what are you doing? I used to say aliens fly straight past, but no, they're already here, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. We have just in one of the suburbs near us, they've just, I think there's about 7 to 10, I think, new daycare centres built. There's just a massive amount. They're just building them everywhere. Absolutely. And they're not even beautiful and friendly and nature and
they're stone, they're precast concrete.
Yes.
They're precast concrete. The play areas are on the first floor over here.
Pardon?
I said they're precast concrete.
Yes.
The childcare centres that are going up everywhere. The precast concrete play areas are on the first floor. The balcony. There's not a tree. There's nothing. Yeah. You couldn't be further from the ground. You know, my friend and I joke, you know, they're building over there. Is that a factory or a childcare centre?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
You know, you can't put green leaves and some sort of pretty coloured logo on the front and hide the fact that, you know, it's a concrete room, artificially lit, artificially ventilated. The outdoor spaces are, you know, bear no resemblance to planet Earth.
No.
Yeah. No. So, yeah.
Teaching kids about sex. Now they're...
Well, we've gone from trans story time to teaching kids about sex, and now they're terrified about childcare centres. I mean, well, and they know, well, there's a lot going on in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's all been very, very much designed to disconnect parents from parenting.
Yeah.
You know, and particularly women, which is a taboo subject. But I've got to the point where I'm thinking, bugger it. I mean, I went to the Let Women Speak rally when it was held in Adelaide out of interest, because I thought I'm going to take that mic and go, because I'm really concerned about childbirth and women's outcomes, which is another thing. We're on 50% caesarean section rate. Go the umbilical stem cord stem cell harvesters, I suspect. But birth trauma, but like traumatic birth experiences for women are driving women to free birth, according to this week's Medical Journal of Australia. And, because look at how I started. I had a terrible experience in a Sydney hospital. I went to home birth. These people are going to say, we don't need anything. Anything's better than that hospital system. So I went to this Let Women Speak because I also, breastfeeding is just, let's let that happen in its own time, not rip them off the boob at 6 months to go into full-time care while you go back to full-time work or even some version of that. It's a supply and demand balance, and and as I said, baby, come out of the womb onto the boob, and when they're ready, they'll crawl down, and plant their feet on the ground, and they'll probably hold on to you for a bit, but they'll, develop in their own time, at their own pace, in their own way. Yeah. And we don't have that anymore.
No,
we're scheduling. Yeah, you're scheduling babies.
Well, they're not even treated like babies, are they, anymore? They're just like these, shove them here, shove them there, go to work, do this, do that. We have to have the big house, we have to have the car, all these things, which...
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with having a home and a car,
No.
There's nothing wrong with having a career. But there's something very, very wrong. And there's nothing wrong with children going to some form of play or even educational activity, whatever rocks their boat. But you can't uniformly impose something on every family, on every child, as the given, and not have bad outcomes. We know that. And then, as soon as they hit school, it's kind of the opposite, because there are so many children with diverse, I'm only going to say diverse educational needs, neurological development, as in harmed, damaged, can't sit still, ADHD, autism, blah, blah, allergies, food allergies. So all of a sudden the school system is now dealing with, I suppose with childcare's, a million different things all at once, rather alongside education,
Yeah. And they use dots. A friend of mine's child had to sit on a dot, a big spot, because he had ADHD, and that was meant to help him stay still.
Yeah, well, look, you'll be pleased to know the government's stepped up funding and stepped up training so that an ADHD diagnosis doesn't have to be a prolonged through a specialist, anymore. GPs can do it and prescribe methamphetamines, stimulants, which are amphetamines, right? So, it's so widespread. People were having to wait for their diagnosis and their amphetamines. And so now we're, making all of that way more accessible.
That's nice.
Yeah. So go on. And adults are loving the ADHD diagnosis. I'm going to remain undiagnosed.
Me too. Lots of people getting diagnosed now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
And these children, a lot of these children, you find, because I'm a homeschooler, and we've been schooling for many years. The girls went to school for a little while. Willow, I don't think, has even been to school for 2 whole years, I don't think, in her whole life, and she's 14. My oldest has gone back to high school. But, you bring these kids out in nature, and all these children, they've got all these issues, and they thrive.
Mm.
They learn in different ways. We all learn in different ways, but they thrive when they're homeschooled, the majority of them.
Yeah. Well, they've got some agency. They've got some structure, but they've also got some agency. I'm trying to... I wasn't able to homeschool, but I was able, I was a home mum through the early years, and I spent
Yeah.
a lot of time at the school too. But and some things suit some kids, and some things don't, and a lot of people are being driven out of the school system because of the woke agenda, as everyone
Mm.
is saying. And even back then, when my kids were at school, I mean, they first introduced the second measles, mumps, rubella vaccine through a primary school vaccination program. And one teacher, actually, he's been arrested as a pedophile. This teacher, by the way.
Oh, safe school.
No, this was my daughter. It was my eldest daughter's year 6 or 7 teacher, and he's been arrested in the last about maybe 2 years ago. But doesn't your mother, your mother obviously doesn't love you or care about you because she's refused this vaccine.
This is what they tell them.
Well, that's what happened. Humiliated her in front of the whole class.
Mm.
It's like, it's not all right. Can working mums homeschool? That's a question for you.
Yeah, they can. They can now, because there's lots of different programs for homeschoolers now. So it's not just you having to homeschool yourself. There's lots of different programs and groups. It's brilliant, really. When I first started homeschooling, I was really lucky because I was with my husband at that time, and I didn't have to work. So we just did all these amazing things. Every day we were doing something different. But I do have to work now. But Willow still goes to groups, and her dad helps on the other days. So I'm blessed. But yes, there's lots of programs to answer that question. Sorry. Took a long time.
And there used to be, lots of play opportunities outside of a childcare setting, for, smaller numbers,
Yes.
More flexibility, because, you do. And I worked, like I absolutely worked casually, not in a full-time role, or, not in a structured, 9 to 5 type role until they were sort of well into primary school. But yeah, I mean, and we saw that with, work from home or whatever during COVID. But I mean, it's actually about prioritizing the child and the child's needs. And I think what we're seeing is that handing that responsibility over to institutions is failing them dreadfully.
Certainly is. Yeah.
So yeah, lots to unpack.
There is.
But yeah, the parents who participate in the system, there are no exemptions. I had an inquiry this morning, and this happens quite a bit. What are my options for kindergarten? Can I get an exemption? Well, you can't get any exemptions to vaccines. If the most you can get at any point is a 6-month sort of hold, if there's developmental issues or something like that. And developmental issues, of course, are front of mind now because they're everywhere. But you won't ever be there is zero pathway to ensure your child gets a full year of kindergarten if they're unvaccinated. Zero pathway. And when I talk about developmental issues, which is something I've said before too, but this is also recent, in the US, they've actually pushed back milestones for development, walking, talking,
Yes.
right? And here, they've introduced programs. There's one called Little Inklings, South Australia, Western Australia, which is if you've got a little inkling that your child might not be, developing as you would expect. And I think they've dumbed it down anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and then you kind of go, I don't know if anyone saw Foreign Correspondent Tuesday night. It was about MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, the MAHA movement. And, and that just reminded me again of this whole because they always use measles as an example. We're like, if we all stop vaccinating, there'll be a resurgence of disease. There won't.
Yes.
Okay, they just won't. That doesn't. There'll be a resurgence of health. That's what will happen.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah,
there are kids with multiple, and complex health issues and development issues. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But vaccine never prevented anyone from getting anything. In fact, it's spread disease, and it's modified, what is our natural environment. So, yeah.
So, Kathy, we've only got a short time left. Do you want to speak on your little booklet?
I'd love to if I'd done any more work on it. I keep I'm sitting at my desk on my old brother's laptop. This is, this has got scribbles in it. I've done all the research. I'm currently pulled away caring yet again for somebody who's quite ill, and close to me. But it's just designed to address all of those things very simply in a very short read that is well researched and referenced. It's been fabulously received. I think I can't even remember, late 90s it was first published, 1998.
Can you hold it up, Kathy?
Oh, this was their 8th edition, and also this is 2008, 2014, but the next one is still a work in progress. It's not far off. But
Okay.
the idea of this, which was a universally agreed thing by all the vaccine information groups, was just to have something to send people. It costs peanuts. This ain't setting you back 50. You know what I mean? This is something you can give away. It's under $5.
Should be in all doctors' surgeries.
Well, and it was.
It was.
Yeah, it actually was. It was the Adelaide Hills, here in Adelaide, the Adelaide Hills General Practice Association actually asked that it be put in all of their Hills surgeries. This is obviously going back well pre-2015. And at the same time, the midwives at the Women's and Children's Hospital asked that it be put in the new baby package.
Okay.
Because it is actually designed to be a counter to the government propaganda, which doesn't address anything. Like, there is no information in product information generated by sponsored or generated by the vaccine manufacturers. It doesn't tell you what the side effects are. It makes false claims, about for example, subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, which is what I would describe as a neurological degenerative condition we see happening before our eyes, to a degree when babies get MMR vaccine, especially 2 doses within 6 months. It's a condition. Subacute, can be fatal. And so they say measles, if you can get this nasty degenerative condition from measles infection, but you can't get it from the vaccine. This is, I've seen the fact sheet, like A4 fact sheet, and you can't get it from the vaccine. And we were actually at a conventional baby expo when I saw the SA immunisation unit, making this claim. So I just went home and printed out a sheet with, probably 2 dozen references of this same condition, SSPE, happening in relation to measles vaccine. They're just lying through their teeth. Nobody should be surprised that they're lying through their teeth at this point.
No, that's right.
Nobody should be surprised that they're lying through their teeth, and everyone is looking at, to Saturday the 19th and the World Health Organization and the updated, pandemic, what are they going to do to us next? When we launched our drive in 1997, the government to increase vaccination rates, that was a World Health Organization blueprinted document that went out to every country. It's so entrenched. this connection with the WHO.
Yes.
And they are equally part of a system that doesn't have the capacity to monitor or record anywhere near the claims that they make. And obviously, side effects are ignored, deaths are ignored, vaccine failure is absolutely ignored.
Yes.
And you can get all of this from the horse's mouth. I rang South Australian Immunisation. I said, so if a kid in a kindergarten's got measles, you're going to send the unvaccinated kids home. I said, do you check to see if the kid with measles was vaccinated or not? No, they don't. So they're not recording the vaccination status when they get a notifiable disease. We've got to the point now where they're not even notifying a disease, because how can you tell what's going on? Whooping cough doesn't look like whooping cough anymore. Measles doesn't look like measles anymore. You can have a rash quite commonly just from the vaccine. So, it's a great big soup of, pure fiction.
Yes. I was going to say something else, but yeah, that sounds.
Yeah, I'm being in my words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, this conversation could go on forever. You've opened my eyes to things tonight that just shocked me.
So another point is, why are there vaccine zealots then? Because they must have seen their kids react to vaccines. They must have had to deal with health issues. Why are they so convinced that, on the other side, that it's got nothing to do with the vaccine, or that's quite normal?
Yeah, why?
And that everybody should vaccinate for why are they so absolutely thoroughly, brainwashed and convinced, and to the point where they're willing to, lay down judgment against anyone who chooses differently? I think that they go through a lot. They have to commit to holding down a baby while 3 needles go in at once. And if somebody's not doing that, then they're not towing the line. So, there's a physical, there's an emotional, you can't, what it's like if your child's sick or your child hurts themselves. You feel it, don't you?
Yes.
Exactly. And how do you not feel it when they scream when a needle enters? And the argument used to be with anti-vaxxers that they didn't like the needle. My argument would be, well, no, we don't like what's in it. Don't like the needle either. No, health was never promoted by something injected. You breach the skin barrier with that conglomerate of passage through animal DNA soup with preservatives and heavy metals and all the rest of it. All of that straight into your system, unscreened, unfiltered, not like something you've eaten, not like something you've inhaled, or not even like something you've put on your skin.
Kathy, we're going to have to finish up, but I would love for you to come back on.
Well,
would you be happy to do that in the near future?
I'll do that when my booklet's done.
Okay. Yeah.
Apologies, world.
Would be great. Yeah.
It's nearly there. So, but yeah, I'd love to. And you know what? People need to ask questions.
Yes.
And it is quite shocking to realise, after the fact, that this has impacted your child.
Yeah, well, I realised, but even just some things that you've said about the breastfeeding and things, I didn't realise that. Like, we had a real struggle with that, and I had no idea that was a common.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to reclaim all of this. Yes. We need to go back to a more connected, nurturing, natural, supportive way of birthing and love. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kathy.
Sorry, everybody, for my messy bedroom/office background.
We do have to go because I think Robin's on at 8 o'clock. So thank you very much, Kathy, and look forward to our next chat.
You'll have to mute me to shut me up.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming on. And hopefully we'll have Kathy back very soon. Okay, guys, have a wonderful evening, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Just